there's this common misconception that's out there that you should only call a lawyer when there's a problem or when you've been sued or something arises. But can you just tell me, in your practice in intellectual property, the value of sort of being proactive and working with clients on the front end before there's a problem?
Oh, sure. So most of the work that I do is either intellectual property or it's, commercial contracts. And both of those, you know, it may cost you, it'll cost you some money to consult with an attorney beforehand. But if, just to give an example, so say you're founding a tech company, if you don't have your founders agreements in place, if you don't have your developers agreements in place, have intellectual property protections in those, or even have a written agreement at all, those types of agreements, they cost some money, sure, but if you don't have them, sometimes they can't be fixed, and sometimes the only, most of the time, the only way to fix them is another written agreement. And if you're in litigation when that happens, it's phenomenally expensive to fix. And even if you're not, a lot of times the leverage changes, right? Because the value of the company is very different 5 years later than it was when you started. And so it's just so much more cost effective to manage those things properly on day one than it is on, year two or year five. So I imagine the same is true of employment issues, that you'd rather deal with them up front as you're hiring, as you're doing these things, than after you've fired them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've sort of built my firm, the workplace law firm, around this notion that, a lot of good can be done on the front end, and a lot of inexpensive issues can be corrected with some proactive consulting and counseling. So, for example, in the workplace, you don't want to wait until the employee leaves to deal with something that could be problematic. I always say that the second an employee leaves the company, that's an opportunity for that employee to talk to a plaintiff's lawyer about all the deficiencies of your workplace, or to talk to the government about all the deficiencies of your workplace. And employees are inevitably going to come and go, right? Every employee has a life cycle within an organization, especially in this day and age. People don't stick around forever. So the key is to understand how to properly hire somebody, how to properly even advertise for a job, okay? Because that in and of itself could have some compliance considerations. How to properly pay people, okay? This is the area that I find most companies struggle with. How do you pay people properly and in compliance with the law? And then if you have to let somebody go, it's going to happen. How do you properly terminate somebody? All of those considerations can be done in coordination with counsel. And I recommend that they do, because a 10-minute phone call to give a blessing on a termination, yes, that may cost you a little bit of money for that consulting. It'll save you potentially a lot more if you don't handle it properly in some future litigation or some future lawsuit or audit triggered by that. So yes, in both of our professions, proactive, preventative, that's the name of the game. And it's something that I strongly recommend. And I hope that this message helps some people realize that you can call your lawyer before something goes wrong. And hopefully that you do.
Right. Absolutely. Well, cool. Well, let's do another one of these again.
Absolutely. Have a good day, Justin.
Talk to you soon, Adam.